Hello and Happy New Year. Welcome to Shusaku review number 39. We're going to be reviewing game 37 from Invincible, which is the 8th castle game. And it's between Shusaku and Showa. So this was what was called an okonomi game, which is essentially an unscheduled castle game that was requested personally by the shogun. And you'll see that this game was played across 2 days, so they didn't finish the game at Edo Castle the first day, so they finished it up the second day at the residence of Lord Ando of Nagato. All right, let's jump in. White makes kind of an interesting choice here for his cornerstone. And as we know from this time, White typically doesn't take the fourth corner because there's a pressure of having no komi in that time. So White plays actively and approaches from this side here. Shusaku plays the low 3-space pincer, which was pretty popular at that time. This move was, basically developed by Dosaku some 100 years or more earlier. He plays here, and then White plays the 5-4 point here. And so Shusaku decides, you ignored my pincer, so I'm just going to continue with the kick. And then the knight's move to attack these two stones. One thing to keep in mind, especially like nowadays with modern Go, is that this shape does leave this weakness here, the across attach at A. White can play later, which we'll maybe look at that a little bit. But for now, White wants to handle these two stones, and he plays here, which is a very sort of natural move to do this. And basically, it's making miai of these 2 points, right? So White's getting out, which helps with health. And next, White can press at B to push this black stone low along the left side, or he can follow up with A. So Black agrees and decides to help his stone here, and then White approaches the other open corner. I think nowadays this is playable immediately, and probably is a stronger move, I would guess. And so essentially what's going to happen here is Black doesn't have a great way of stopping this move, right? So even if you Hane, you certainly can't double Hane, right? Because these two stones are gonna die. And even if you back off, there's still a cut here, and these 3 stones in the corner aren't alive either. So that's kind of tricky. Probably the proper move is here, but still, White can just get out, and you've kind of got this problem in the corner here. So this is an issue. A lot of times White will play it when White has a helping stone on the top somehow, but you can display this directly and it can cause problems. And so normally, nowadays, the understanding is that if you're gonna play this sort of thing, you need like another move to settle it down, and then White, could continue with this. But in this game, they leave it for now. And Shusaku plays another 3-space low pincer, so you can see this was really popular at that time. And then White plays a really interesting move. He plays this cap here, which I certainly wasn't expecting to see. And it makes for an interesting game. So a couple things to point out here. We've already talked about the weakness, the Aji at A, that White can use. And then also, White can press, right, at B, and kind of push black low. That means that basically white has fighting resources on the left and the right, which means it's not easy for black to start trouble here. And so let me just show what black did. He decided to follow up on the left with the vital point here, and then to fix this problem, kind of with that same shape point I showed earlier. And then white makes this exchange. So I think like the way you can look at it is the main move is actually here to fix this Aji on the top. But black wants to play sort of an inducing exchange that makes this move feel a little bit more natural. So we weaken white a little bit in terms of the group's health, but it also makes white thicker towards the top. Then we fix. So that's kind of like a natural flow. And I forgot to mention that the professional commentating this game in the book is Fujisawa Shuko, which some of you may know. He has like a series of books which are Tasuji dictionaries, and I've had them on my in my bookcase for or shelf, I should say, for a long time, and I finally cracked them open recently. But what he said is basically if black tries to start a fight, something like this, he didn't show any specifics, but basically this is asking for a lot, given that, white can do this, like at any time, get a bunch of forcing moves, and then he's also got this. So black's choice here of just kind of calming the situation down is a good one. And we end up in a situation where, white has quite a lot of high stones on the board. So I think it's an interesting game already. One thing I didn't mention earlier is Shuko mentioned, he said nowadays white would play here instead. Of course, this book is quite old at this point, and so nowadays is no longer nowadays. And I don't think that people would play here now. I think they would play Tanuki to the last corner, similar to what Showa did, or maybe even more likely just make this exchange first and then play some sort of corner. But in any case, so this is where we end up in the game, and now black's cornerstone is looking a little lonely, and so white plays the double approach here. And so we have kind of like this inside weak stone that we want to help. And there's a couple choices. Black decides that he's okay with attaching here. It's going to make white stronger in this area, right? But the thing is that black was already quite strong. So it's not having a huge impact on black in a negative way. So that's fine. If you wanted to keep both stones weak, then this would be the move, right? Not touching either side. And Shuko did show a variation for this. White's probably going to attach here. And then black may make a forcing exchange. Normally we would answer here, right? But in this interesting shape, we can actually answer here, which fixes this gap and also weakens the square stone more. And then black's probably going to do some sort of pincer. White comes out, black comes out. So this would be like a possible development. And then, there still is thinness on the top, and black can also try to aim at playing the Hane at A later. So this would be possible, just a different game. Black decided to go this way. We block in the corner. And white plays on top to kind of start getting some shape. This is a contact play, but Shusaku ignores that for now. He just plays on the right side, which is quite big. It feels natural to Hane here, but Shuko pointed out that even if you get these exchanges in, which feels good for black, the problem is it's most likely going to end in gote because there's still, or if you take sente, there's this issue here where white can clamp at A and start causing some problems. So it doesn't feel like the right time for this sort of thing. And that's why Shusaku just plays over here on the right. I guess I should point out, we know that this cut here on the right side or in the top right corner does not work yet. White jumps out, not wanting to be surrounded. And now, while the cut still doesn't work, it starts to become a little more interesting. So let me just show black's move. So black reinforces here, and we can look at this and see, like this cut still doesn't work. The white stones are going to die before the black stones do. But now, if white covers here, which is very powerful, right, linking everything together, then the cut is going to work. And so black doesn't really want to let it get to that point. And then the other thing is there's a pretty nasty vital point here where white can just take this shape point and kind of glare at the cut. So this is a good time to fix that up. And then Showa just takes a big move. So he kind of leaves this alone for now, takes a big move on the bottom, and then Shusaku decides he's going to come out here because there's two groups, right? So there's interesting things to do. That was one of the things I enjoyed about this game, was just seeing how he plays where the action is, and we'll see more of that later as well. But black comes out. White decides that he wants to settle the group on top first by playing another move against this stone. So white has a pretty good situation on the top now, but these stones are getting lonely. Black plays the knight's move to start surrounding. White makes the jump, aiming to come underneath or to come out, also getting a little bit of a base here for eye shape. And then black makes an exchange here in the corner. He approaches, white plays Kosumi, and then he comes back to finish up here. So this is kind of interesting. Shuko pointed out he could just play this directly and then perhaps approach on the fourth line. That would be totally possible, but in the game, he plays it like this. And so you can see, I guess let's pause here for a moment. Black has gotten a bunch of stones on the outside, whereas white has these ones on the inside. They're a little bit low. We've also got this white group over here, which is strong enough for now, but clearly not alive, doesn't really have any eye shape. For now, black is going to continue on the bottom. Comes out with Kosumi. We really don't want to play this sort of exchange unless we have to, right? Because this basically makes white bulletproof, makes white very, very strong. So usually you won't see that sort of attach played by stronger players. So this becomes a little bit of a Kosumi war here, because white decides that he's gonna come out and Kosumi as well. If white plays something like this, which is another nice point, it's just too easy for black to jump out and start connecting everything up, which is gonna be nice for black. So this move makes sense. There's cuts too, right? There's like a push and cut from A. And white's move here very much is looking forward to being able to do something in that area. Now the bottom gets a little bit interesting here. Black makes this exchange, which to me, it feels bad in a way, right? Because we're making white stronger on the bottom. But I think his idea here, Shusaku or Shuko didn't actually comment on this, but my understanding of this move is basically he's trying to get a little bit of help, just making this one AB exchange so that he can't easily be surrounded. And then he's going to go do something else. So he feels that if he just went and played Tanuki now, that it would be a little bit easier to surround him somehow. So he plays this exchange and then plays here. And this is another move where I would just not think of this. It looks like black is coming into a rather narrow area. And we just made white stronger here at A. And you know, it's Shusaku, so he ends up handling this very, very well. But I would have thought, you know, more about doing something from the corner side. It is a little bit low on the left side. Everything is low, and perhaps that's what he was worried about. But in any case, he makes that one exchange and then comes in here. And white plays a really nice timing move here. He makes this exchange. And so the idea is this is going to become some sort of running battle, right? So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but if we're like running out in this direction, it really helps a lot if we already have the A-B exchange in. And it's a pleasant exchange for us anyways, right? It keeps black very low, and it strengthens white's group. So it's going to help in the fight basically no matter what. And so he gets this exchange in and then plays the kick. Black comes up, and you can see we've kind of created this situation where like neither A or B are they're not horrendously weak, but they're not, like, clearly they're targets. They're not strong groups. I think for A, his thinking was, you know, I can still block at C. That makes good eye shape. I can come out somehow, right? And I also have moves at G. So it's not as if you know, white can kill this group all of a sudden. And so kick, jump, or stand, and then white jumps here. So this is a really nice point, obviously. We've almost surrounded the group on the right-hand side, and then we're clearly having an effect on the group on the left as well. And so what's interesting here is Shusaku still apparently felt confident about these two groups because he decides that what he wants to do is actually play a thick move at A. But he makes this exchange first, which is pretty clever. White is going to fix with good shape, right? Because this, you know, opens up two cuts or opens up a peep. It has more of an effect on black than if we were to just play like this. And then he plays this. And this order is important. So if black just played like this, this is kind of a more advanced concept, but these stones automatically become lighter the moment black plays an extra stone against them. So later, if black tries to play this, now like white is very unlikely to do something like this or this. That just becomes heavier. He can treat them more lightly because black already spent an extra stone. So he's more likely to do something like this, some sort of like sabaki play. But so in the game, we play like this, and then we've got these targets here, right? And Showa decided that, I guess he agreed with Shusaku that it wasn't going to be the best plan to attack directly. So he just calmed down and said, okay, well, I'm going to finish the corner up here. You still have, you still have these problems, right? And I think the idea is, if he does something serious like this, first of all, the corner is open anyways, right? And it's still possible to come out. So there's flexibility in both of these, but it feels like getting a little bit to the edge, but we'll see how he handles it. So now black jumps out, and white reinforces here. If he wants basically any future against this group, he's gonna, need to make sure that this group is okay too. So this is kind of a patient approach here. And then now black finally comes and starts to deal with this group. So we'll play this sequence out here first, and then we'll go back and look at some things. This is very much don't do this unless you know what you're doing. At least to me it feels like, because we're making white very strong next to our other weak group, right? Now granted, actually let me finish this up here. So it ends up like this. Now granted, there's weaknesses here, right? So there's a peep at A that actually helps our other weak group. Cut doesn't work, but there's B or C that we can use. I mean, there's other forcing moves too, like D would be forcing, threatening to cut. But in general, white just got really thick near our other group. And so Shuko pointed out the more normal shape would be to play this outside jumping move. This is kind of cool. If white tries to cut, black can wedge, and then Atari from the other side. And white's not going to play this way, obviously, right? Because this is a disaster for white, getting this shape and then getting broken on this side. But that just shows, this move basically gets out. Shuko didn't know exactly why Shusaku decided to play the way that he did, but he thought that perhaps he was unhappy with this variation, where white just exchanges A for B, because black is out for now, but the shape is thinner than the shape in the game. And the other thing to note about this shape in the game is that, as I mentioned, there are these peeps that help black out. This empty triangle as well, I would have expected something more like this. So I'm not sure if he's worried about perhaps strengthening white on the right side. It almost seems like he's saying, you know what, I'm just gonna, the shape's not great, but you have a cut. It's hard for white to cut me, and now you have this gap that you have to deal with. I'm not gonna help you fix that on your own. That's kind of the feeling I got. And in fact, that's exactly what white does. He says, before black was the weak one, right? So I don't need to worry about helping the A stones. I don't really need to worry about helping the B stones. But once black comes out like this, there's nowhere to go, right? So if these two sides get separated, that could certainly be an issue. And so he decides, okay, I'm going to help my group. Good time to play forcing moves, because black needs to answer those to keep us weak. And then he plays very patiently here, just to keep both sides separated. And now black plays the very beautiful move. I think this is one of the moves that really stood out to me in this game. This and then the follow-up he gets with it is basically where the kind of the flow of things change. So you can see that white is surrounded in the corner now, and the shape is not good, right? Like moves like A or B, black is probably going to be able to live in there. And so white plays here, which defends against A. And it's also looking at these thin spots, right? But the problem is this move, which black follows up with, is extremely thick. Just the shape is very, very strong now. It might seem like, black still has some weaknesses here that white could use. And that's partially true, but we need to remember that really we can imagine black has like invisible stones at A, B, or C at any time. So black is thick now, and white is not. And so it was probably important for white to at least push here to make this position weaker before coming back and helping the corner. And so this was kind of like the first move that was very thick here, this tiger's mouth. And then this move with the follow-up here, black now has a thick position. And I think probably the most interesting part of this game is seeing how Shusaku translates this thick position into value, how he uses it to attack. So let's watch that. So this group is weak now, right? And so white comes out, which is a good move. And although white invested an extra move at A, there's still Aji in the corner. And black is thick all around. So this is the start of how he uses the thickness. He starts by playing at the 3-3 and asking white what he's going to do. Showa chooses like the strongest move essentially, which is here. The reason that it is strong is that it's strong towards the outside, right? So white A next is very hard for black to stop, meaning that this move has like a big points implication, but also just for the situation on the bottom, it's very powerful. Let's think about the best way to do this. Let's actually look at what Shuko showed first. This is the other possibility. And, this is, we're playing closer to the A stone, but this move has less of an effect on this side, right? So for instance, if white plays Hane next, we could just block. Whereas in the game, we can't block that, right? We'll just get cut immediately. So in this situation, black's gonna play here, and if white Hane's on the inside, black will be happy to just get this value out of that invasion, essentially. Might not play it immediately, but this will be fine. And let's look at something else. If white tries to block on the outside, this is where black can show a really nice move, which is this move, which is Sente to cut at K4. Then come back and play here. And so this shape is not alive locally, but if white tries to kill, like starting with the Hane would be the most natural, black can just push. And now we can see the meaning of this second line Kosumi here, because A and B are now Mihai, we can cut. So that's pretty cool. In the game, however, it's a little bit different. So now, because white is going to get more of a benefit on the bottom because of his strong move. Black is unwilling to just extend at A. He wants to do a bit more, so he actually plays the cut here. And we'll just follow this through. Do this Atari first, and then this one. This is pretty basic, right? But white doesn't want to answer this way, right? Because then we get this sort of move. So, but here, obviously, we're in big trouble if we do that. So Atari from here, and then here allows us to get both of the Ataris, essentially. Black pushes out. White has a lot of weaknesses here, so he can't really play this move. He needs to come back and cut, and then black extends, and white has to follow up here. So what did black accomplish here? Obviously the corner is still white's, but black got even thicker than before. So he got these stones, essentially. There's no more cut or like a gap at A. And then we have the option to push through at A at any time, right? So basically took a thick position, made it even thicker. Now black plays here, I believe, to just deal with the potential of A in advance. And then he attaches here. And so what we're going to see starting from here is essentially like a splitting attack. There's the A group and the B group, and neither of them have two eyes. And the way in which black attacks is just very instructive, I think. White decides to just help this group directly. It's a little interesting. But Shuko felt that he was worried about this sort of thing. Like, black can just keep pushing, which normally pushing from behind is not good, right? But the thing is, like, this group is gonna need two eyes at some point. And so if we keep pushing like this group is getting cut off. And then to make matters worse, there's always a Hane at A that is gonna be a problem. Black's kind of threatening. He can do that at some point too. And so I think white just decided, you know what, like these groups, I need to manage them separately. I'm just gonna play a shape point here. That allows black to continue though against this group. White makes kind of the Sabaki move here. Black again continues, you know, just like little by little. White comes out, so we're kind of connecting back to our upper right group. And now, again, this group is still very much a target. So black decides to get this forcing exchange in here, which is going to help black's thin area here, but also make white heavier. Makes one exchange here. White protects, and then takes the stone off. And so, like, if we look at these moves, right, there's like 6 moves here now that have been spent. It's not like these are making a lot of points, right? But he's able to use this in a way to like very clearly win the game. So we're threatening this cut now. So white has to answer. And now this lonely stone from before that you know, black kind of just allowed white to get multiple moves against comes into play. So he plays Hane, black Ataris. Normally you would extend here, right? But he's got his eye on the ball, so he actually pushes here, which is a move that I think takes a certain amount of confidence to play. Let's look at what happened. White agreed that he needs to answer here. And so it became like this. But you have to be prepared for this, right? What happens here? And essentially, the judgment is that black's going to kill one of these groups. So if we come out like this, like this, like this. There's probably a bunch of different ways, but this is the diagram that Shuko showed. And basically, like, one of these groups is going to die. The B group has an eye here and has possibility to get a Gote eye at the bottom, like in the C area. A, I'm not sure if it has any eyes. It looks like maybe Gote one eye, and maybe another Gote eye along the side. So that's not going to work for white as nice as it would be to be able to capture that. And so he gets to make this exchange, and then he leaves these two stones alone. He just extends once to make sure that, you know, white can't just make a Panuki in one move, but then he is still on the attack. So knight's move here, and this move is obviously surrounding this group. Again, it only has one eye and could make another on the side, so white's going to have to do that soon. The other thing it's doing is it is looking at the push and cut at ABC. And so white just pushes once and then peeps to fix the cut, and says, okay, time for me to make my second eye. So the A group is now officially safe. The B group is also officially safe. So there's no big attacking stuff to do anymore, but black has already gotten a benefit, and he finishes up here. So essentially at this point, black has, it's not a huge lead, but it is a solid lead, and he's able to maintain that through the end game. So from now, we'll basically just be looking at end game. There are still some details. So like even this entire structure, there are questions about eye shape and stuff. If black gets a clamp at A and Hane at that A. And so what white does is he starts here, which is a nice move because this is kind of like a principle. So when black plays this move here on the top side, capturing, it's like he closed the door on the right-hand side. Normally when our opponent is committing to a territory, then we can kind of like force them to take the rest of it. And the other thing this move does is it could create another eye in the corner for white, right? So I think that's why he started here. Shusaku played this really interesting looking move, right? Normally we would play here. There wasn't any commentary on this, but my feeling is that he doesn't want white to be able to get this move in Sente, because that's going to undermine the left side even further. And so that's why he played back a little bit, but it's definitely a strange looking move. So when you see something like this, it's like interesting to try and figure out the reason why. And then he just plays the biggest move on the board, which is in the corner here. And black pushes and cuts to kind of clear this area up, give possibility to make some points here. White forces. We've got some interesting empty triangles going on here. Peeps. And then saves a stone here. So there is stuff to do in this area, right? So black peeps now. Notice the timing. White saved this, so now we can peep, get a little bit of help, and then he goes and plays the next biggest move, which is the Hane and connect here. Now that attached that I had mentioned really is large, not only on points, but also has implications for eye shape for the entire group. So white plays here, which is very big. Black continues on the bottom. White has to take his second eye, and then plays some forcing exchanges here. So this is sente, right? Because there's kind of like this snapback shape. So white can't do that. He has to play like this. But it's all gonna die. So white needs to play. Black forces, and then we get this little ko here, which is not, it's not a very serious ko, but black can just take a little bit of benefit from it, which is why he does it this way rather than connecting. So we get this little ko, use this as a threat, and then finish that for now. There's almost a little bit of a something with black A, white B, black C, but it doesn't work because of the corner situation and shortage here. So this is done for now. And black comes back to this area, threaten to disconnect. Plays a push in sente, and then makes this big capture here. White pushes to create some weaknesses in this area, and then plays the attach here. Which again, it's interesting, right? So they both seem to be playing under the understanding that black does not want white to get a stone at A and sente. And I can't see exactly why that is, because it seems to me that white can already play B anyways, but it is a little more complicated than that, because if black pulls C out, then you start getting other cuts and stuff that can happen. But that is why black answers from the inside rather than here, presumably. So he gets this in sente, slides in here. Black plays here. I'm not even going to pretend to understand this move. It looks quite small to me. Now, there is this sort of thing, right? But one we can't get out in any case. So yeah, this one is not real clear to me. White pokes in a bit, black connects, white connects. This is threatening to cut, right? And black says, that's okay, if you cut, I can just handle this separately. White plays here. Black makes a forcing exchange, and then kind of finishes this area up. And then white comes back and connects here, which this move looks a little bit weird, but it's actually quite large because there's a sente move here for black, right? If black plays at A next, it's going to be a ko for the entire white group, which means white has to answer here, and then black can cut. And there's no way to capture these two stones, right? So interesting edge of the board Tesuji stuff there. So white connects, black saves a stone. Now we can see some of the shape stuff here. So white connects, black plays this kind of funny looking move, right? But it's threatening to cut, and then allows him to come down. So in the end, he's actually able to secure quite a few points here, despite being undercut on both sides. So that's pretty interesting. White plays the Hane, which is big, and sente, right? We can't allow this sort of thing, obviously. And then comes down. Black makes one exchange here. Forces over here. Pushes and then blocks. So this was the end of the game record. Black ended up winning by 6 points. They did play to the end. So yeah, I thought this was a really interesting game. You know, there were some decisions like here and here that were really weird and kind of questionable to me. Also like the empty triangle. But it was very, very instructive just to see how Shusaku was able to use the thickness starting from this point and just, you know, he didn't need to kill anything, but basically he used it to get advantages, just little advantages here and there, ultimately getting this stone back, which was really, really large. Yeah, that was the game. The next one, or I guess I should mention, this was the second castle game that Shusaku has played with Ito Showa. And the book mentions, let's see, what does it say here? Shusaku's second castle game against Showa was quite a contrast to his first. I don't actually remember what the first one looks like, but I'm sure it's on the channel because we would have reviewed it already, so you can go back and watch that one. My guess is that that one was much more difficult, whereas the feeling in this game was that Black, was comfortably in charge for this whole game. So the next game, actually, we're going into a new series after this, which is going to be the Sanjubango with Ota Yuzo. And I'll talk more about that, I guess, in the next video. But basically, it's a 30-game series with, like the other, or one of the other top players of that day. So that'll be interesting. Everybody at the time was basically felt Shusaku was the strongest player, but Ota Yuzo basically had like an even record with Shusaku, so he didn't agree with everybody's assessment, right? He's like, "What about me? I win just as much as I lose." So they had this 30-game series that we'll start diving into. The other thing to mention is I was thinking about doing a separate series, which would be just reviewing your guys' games. So if any of you guys are probably like one done, might be like the upper limit of where I could reasonably help. Obviously, I'm not the strongest player in the world, nowhere near it, but I can do reviews in a way where I could probably show some fundamentals, some practical things, give explanation or reasoning. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments. We could figure something out, and then if you could send me a game or two, that'll maybe be like a second stream of videos we could start doing if people are interested in that. All right, thanks. See you next time.